Yeah. I was gonna say Matrix, so then it sounded like Mox. I had this ex where I used to say, like, I tried to say Mickey Mouse, and then I said Mickey Mox because the Haitian accent just slipped out. But yeah, back in the box. Mox. Matrix box. Mickey Mox. Back in the Matrix box. Ooh, it's a good stretch. 350. Low key, I want to feed my belly, but at the same time, I want to. I think I should take a pill. I'm gonna take a pill. I'm gonna eat some, and then I'm gonna jump in at 4:15. Because realistically speaking, I have to eat. Yeah, this is a live stream, y'all. This is me studying for the test, and like hard hit studying is gonna probably start, and it's probably gonna be more than an hour. Because once you really start studying, you really don't want to stop. Realistically speaking, once you start your LSAT prep, you're not gonna wanna stop like me. Like, you really start to enjoy the work that you do. So if you don't enjoy doing the LSAT, that's not the time for you to be taking the test. Okay, right now I'm stuck on time and section. I know I went into a long tangent previously about what I was talking about. I'm finding what works for me when it comes to law. I actually never really seen myself as a lawyer or doing law work, so reporting it, what you see yourself as is what you're going to maneuver as. So I see myself doing legal work. LSAT, Max has a lot of platforms and resources for me. I'm also subscribed to LSAT. Literally, I watch their videos. I don't pay for it, but I watch their videos, and not really. I watched one video. I got one email. It was like, yo, 1 hour a day, like some hard hit people got into the 70s. That was just like some real good, like, motivational thing. But at first, my question was like, what the hell you mean dating? What is you talking? What kind of family of bug is that one at? Yeah, I don't like unsanitary. I don't like things that ain't sanitary. Like, that's just nasty. Like, I like clean things. I've been dealing with some real, like, interesting conditions over here, and I just got here. Who's to know what's to come in the future? But I try to keep my head on a pivot and a swivel so I could focus on the education. Because right now, I'm just trying. I mean, I would really love to be in like a comfortable space, and why I advocated for myself. And I did the same thing when I was in the University of Illinois, Chicago. I had to advocate for myself real bad. Because, oh nah, these pranks, let me get into it. I'll be back, door. Ain't nobody gonna. I need to get out of my head thinking I gotta care about what people my house. I'm gonna take my own vitamin D. Wait, I think I need a double pill. I just need a liquid gel, Advil. So what I did was take another look with y'all because child, that thing need to go into a bed, baby. I don't know. I don't really want to eat spaghetti. I eat spaghetti for dinner. I don't know what I ate for breakfast. I don't even think I did eat breakfast. I like woke up, went to study, or tried, and had a whole tangent. You don't flip the egg right now or English muffins. I'll go for some grapes. Yeah, do that. I'm about to get hungry. I'll go ahead and take a break. But it's about to be 4. So, you know, that 1 hour is going to go and then it's going to be 2 hours and then 3. I really like studying for 3 hours. I really do. For some reason, studying for 3 hours has been really good to me. Even though it's like some days I get burned out, but that's how it's gonna have to be on the test. But what is burnout really? Like, what are you really tired about? Like, you know, I have the bathroom. So let me close my break because I'm playing ants and spider games, even though they still be crawling on my walls. Y'all, the Marines keep contacting me. I'm being very honest. I don't want nothing to do with y'all right now. I know I said in the future, you know, whatever, contact me after school because I did be a lawyer for the Marines. Y'all, the grapes is good. I love yeah, God and Nikki said everything gonna be okay, so I know everything gonna be okay, y'all. I know. If I go to get my camera fixed and a new lens, I'm gonna be so happy because then I'll be able to, you know, record like live on YouTube with just the camera circle part. So I won't have to worry too much about looking back at my reflection. The problem with this is I very commonly like just look at myself. instead of the green dot. But I could cover my face or whatever. But I mean, I guess it's okay to look at myself too. But look at that. I'm actually gonna watch the video from, oh, it's 4. I'm gonna watch the video from my other phone. I see what it looks like. Wait, like, is it because it's my account? I can't watch it. Okay, let me look there. If I'm looking there, how can I see where I'm looking? That is a pretty clear video. There's the link. Wait, let me look right here real quick and see if I look like I'm looking directly at me. Or if I look here to see if I'm looking directly at me or what looks most authentic. Child, I couldn't tell. Oh, it is the circle, that's better. Okay, cool. I just put love you from me. Giving myself some hearts. Ooh. There goes my grape. Oh my gosh, you can see the hearts come up on here. That's nice. Well, you don't see it as much, but whatever. I don't play them dirt games. Where that grape go? It's getting disposed of. I don't play them ants. 6 of 11 minutes. I'm actually off of here, so somebody new watching and what's good. But if it's the same me, still, what's good? Get it done, Heidi. It was to be 3 hours. I'll be done at 7. That's still early. Eat dinner then. Ain't nothing else to do.
So much less murky.
I love you,
LSAT
Matt.
Will take much less time. If we do our job in phase 1, we'll solve the understanding and strategy issues that create timing problems later on, without thinking about our speed in phase 1. Then we'll move on to phase 2 of our study plan. We won't really think about speed in phase 2 either. Even if a student does phase 1 correctly, the biggest mistake they can make in phase 2 is to start rushing on the practice tests. So many students see that scary timer in the top right corner of the test interface and feel like they have to start rushing. Even if they have the skills and strategies to answer the questions efficiently, they start reading too quickly, they stop making helpful notes, or they don't take a few moments to anticipate what the correct answer will say. This, as you can imagine, is just a fast track to the wrong answer. So when we take practice tests in phase 2, we won't think about the timing. Honestly, we won't even look at the timer as we take the sections. If the mere presence of a timer stresses you out and compels you to rush, try taking the exams untimed. Keep a timer on your phone so you know when you're out of time, but this will at least keep the timer off the screen so it's not constantly intimidating you. So when you take practice tests, don't think about speed. Instead, work purposefully, but don't rush. Stay calm and collected. Remember to work the strategies for each question, including anticipating what the correct answers will say. If you feel like you're going slow, that's okay, because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Working slowly, constantly intimidating you.
I like
so when
that.
you take
Slow
practice
is slow,
tests,
slow is fast.
don't think about speed. Instead, work purposefully, but don't rush. Stay calm and collected. Remember to work the strategies for each question, including anticipating what the correct answers will say. If you feel like you're going slow, that's okay, because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Working slowly probably means you're doing the things that help you. Find the correct answers quickly. Still, you may find that you're not finishing the sections. That's okay. The point of the LSAT isn't to finish the sections. The point is to accrue enough points to earn your target score. For many test takers, they earn more points by skipping and guessing on a few questions rather than speeding to finish the section. As we said in the How to Study for Your Target Score series, your target score will determine how many questions you can skip and guess. Your accuracy on
Excuse me? This yellow pen is too light. And it's okay, but I'll leave it right there for now.
Questions you do attempt will need to be a little higher than your initial target accuracy, but you'll have more time to dedicate to each question, which can help you attain that higher accuracy. The questions you choose to skip are entirely up to you. You may plan to skip, for example, questions 18 through 22 on a logical reasoning section, which is often where the most challenging questions show up. If all the questions are worth just 1 point,
I'm changing the you, y'all to my and I, so I can put myself into the position of it. Because it is me. Talk directly to me.
It makes sense to just guess on the ones you have the lowest chance of answering correctly. You may plan on skipping the reading comprehension passage with the fewest questions, or the comparative passage. You can make in-test decisions about what to skip, perhaps skipping a type of question you find most difficult, or the questions that don't click for you. As you're reading them. Or you can try to answer as many questions as you can until the 5-minute warning appears. At that point, you can register a guess on all the remaining questions.
I am the tropical exotic animal that survives in tropical climates as opposed to cold climates. That's me just thinking back to a reading comprehension passage.
Questions, and pick 2 or 3 questions to dedicate the remaining time to. But beyond skipping and guessing, you shouldn't think about timing.
Excited to get
Doing
into
so
it.
will only distract you from the material on the questions. And that material is complicated enough, even without distractions. Now, if your target score is 170 or higher, you don't have the luxury of skipping many questions. So you may find that you need a little extra help. Finishing these sections. In that case, you can consider doing timed exercises to help increase your speed on some questions. These exercises will help you slowly and steadily increase your pace on the first 10 logical reasoning questions and the
Brother. Ninguém kukala ve kupita ma petite, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I love you.
I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
first 2 reading comp passages while maintaining your accuracy. For more information on these timed exercises, check out our videos and blog posts on timing tips for the LSAT. But other than maybe completing these timed exercises, you shouldn't ever think about your speed. So, we'll say it for the 5th time in this video. You want to know the secret to speed on the LSAT? The secret is to not really think about speed.
Listen to the boss. Don't think about the speed at all. Main point. Let's keep the main thing the main thing.
So now that we've gone over everything we need to know in terms of the foundation of logical reasoning, let's introduce our first question type here, main point questions.
Marin.
So main point questions are very straightforward.
What's his name? His
So
last
now that
name
we've gone
is
over everything we need to know in terms of the
That is
foundation of logical
God-given
reasoning,
man.
let's introduce our first question type here, main point questions.
with Marin Ibadolai. Like, I'm about to literally learn logical reasoning. God is good, you know? Yeah.
So main point questions are very straightforward. We're going to encounter an argument in the short passage,
Straightforward.
and then we're going to be asked to identify the main point of that argument, the conclusion of that argument. So main point questions are a type of must be true question, because again, if you're asked to identify the conclusion,
Main point questions are types of must be true questions.
must be true. You must be able to show me where that is in the passage. So the key here again, we're going to encounter an argument. We're going to break that argument down by identifying the conclusion, identifying the premises.
We're identifying an argument.
Passage, and then we're going to be asked to identify the main point of that argument, the conclusion of that argument. So main point questions are a type of must be true question, because again, if you're asked to identify the conclusion, it must be true. You must be able to show me where that is in the passage. So the key here again, we're going to encounter an argument. We're going to break that argument down by identifying the conclusion,
Break down. Identify conclusion. And premises and supporting pieces.
identifying the premises, and in this case, we're going to go find the answer choice that directly restates the conclusion, because that is going to be the correct answer. So there are two requirements to selecting an answer choice.
You're not only answering the question, you're selecting the correct answer choice. I think answer choice in itself as a word is very good to say, because it helps you put yourself in the mindset like, okay, yes, it's not questions, but you have to choose an answer choice. So make a decision. Choose wisely. Gotta identify, argument, break down, and identify, conclusion, identify, premise, which leads you to correct choice.
As the correct answer on a main point question. The first requirement, again, because it is a must be true question, is that the statement must be true. And more importantly, it must be the main point of the argument. So what they'll do is obviously give you premises, principles, subsidiary conclusions, because obviously those must be true, but they're not going to satisfy the second requirement. Not only must it be true, it must also be the main point. So let's take a look here at question 1. We'll do it together to make sure that we're clear on the strategy that we're using on these main point questions. So question 1 says, the fire that destroyed the municipal building started before dawn this morning, and the last firefighters did not leave until late this afternoon. No one could have been anywhere in the vicinity of a fire like that one and failed to notice it. Thomas must have seen it, whatever he now says to the contrary. He admits that, as usual, he went from his apartment to the library this morning, and there was no way for him to get from his apartment to the library without going past the municipal building. So again, we know our first step, argument or set of facts. Clearly this is an argument, it's a main point question. How can they ask you a main point question? It's not an argument. Notice the question center tells us the main conclusion of the argument is that, so again, clearly an argument. What is the conclusion?
A.
What is the point that this author is trying to convey? Everything that
The author is trying to say Thomas was in the vicinity of the fire this morning. The other one is Thomas claimed to not have seen the fire. He never said that. Thomas saw the fire this morning. They were fighting the fire until late in the afternoon, so you don't know when he could have seen it. Well, then again, he said he went from his apartment to the library this morning, and there's no way for him to get to the apartment to the library without going past it. So he might have saw the fire in the morning because he went in the morning and they didn't end it until late in the afternoon. Thomas went directly from his apartment to the library this morning. He didn't say anything about directly, we're assuming. Thomas went by the municipal building this morning. Kind of stupid question. Let me just listen and learn. I really think he's not in the vicinity of it. It says that is the word vicinity in the paragraph, but no one could have been anywhere in the vicinity of a fire like that, and no one failed to notice it. So vicinity means like the area. So the main conclusion is not that he saw it in the morning. It's not that he claimed to not have seen the fire. It's not that he went directly from the apartment to the library. Those are supporting facts. It's not that he went by the municipal building this morning. It is literally that he was in the vicinity of the fire this morning.
this passage is structured to lead to one final point, and that point is Thomas must have seen. That is the conclusion. What is it? Well, the fire. And how do we know that Thomas must have seen the fire? Well, it started before dawn. Last firefighters did not leave till late afternoon. Anyone in the vicinity could not notice it. Thomas went from his apartment to the library this morning. There's no way for him to get from his apartment to the library without going past the municipal building. Therefore, Thomas must have seen the fire. Again, based on the premises here, first part of the passage, and at the end. So now that we have a clear understanding of this argument and the conclusion, let's move to the question stem, which refers us back to the conclusion. The main conclusion of the argument is that. Main conclusion. Typical main point question stem. So looking for an answer choice that directly restates that Thomas must have seen the fire. A. Thomas was in the vicinity of the fire this morning. You notice A must be true. Directly stated. He went from his apartment to the library this morning, and there's no way for him to get from his apartment to the library without going past the municipal building. But the problem with A is it is not the main point of the argument, so A will be eliminated. Moving to B. Thomas claimed not to have seen the fire. Again, that must be true. It says Thomas must have seen it. Whatever he now says to the contrary, clearly he's saying something to the contrary, so he's claiming not to have seen the fire. But again, the problem with B, that it doesn't satisfy the second requirement.
I didn't even pay attention to catch that, whatever he might not have said to the but whatever he might now says to the contrary. So you really have to pay attention.
Being the main point.
I really want to put earplugs in because I'll be able to hear better. Less noise. Thomas saw the fire this morning. Maybe I actually don't need this. Just gotta open my ears. Just so I can review. That's the whole purpose of me being live. So directory statements are important and must be true. Main point questions, it has to be true. All the other ones we couldn't assume. And for A that I've chosen that he was in the vicinity, he was saying contrary that he, you know, other things. Whatever the case may be. And number 2 is, it is probably within the reach of human technology to make the climate of Mars inhabitable. It might be several centuries before people could live there, even with breathing apparatus. But some of the world's greatest temples and cathedrals took centuries to build. Research efforts now are justified. You know what's so crazy? I just looked about outer space and spoke to my grandma about space, but this is cute. This is cool. Research efforts now are justified if there is even a chance of making another planet inhabitable. Besides the intellectual exercise of understanding how the Martian atmosphere might be changed, could help in understanding atmospheric changes inadvertently triggered by human activities on Earth. The main point of this argument is that it is probably technologically possible for humankind to alter climate on Mars. It would take several centuries to make Mars even marginally inhabitable. Making Mars inhabitable is an effort compared to building great temple or cathedral. Research efforts aimed at discovering how to change the climate of Mars are justified. Efforts to change the climate of Mars are justified. Efforts to change the climate of Mars could facilitate understanding of the Earth's climate. So it's either the first sentence or the last sentence. So it's either A or E. We're not talking about centuries. We're not talking about cathedral or that. I wish I was able to highlight this stuff too, but it's a video, so it is probably technologically possible for humankind to alter the climate of Mars. And so they're putting all these details to say that what it can do and how it will benefit if they change the technology. So basically, they're trying to just say that technology is what will give these people to do so. They said technology gave the cathedrals to do it, and when getting this technology, so technology is the main point, which is giving these people the ability to do so. It can facilitate understanding of the Earth's climate. So this would
First,
probably
make sure
be
that it must be true,
A,
and then
must be
also
true
make
that
sure
it's
that
A.
it is the main point. Find the answer choice that
And we cannot assume that it's
restates-
true. Efforts to change the climate of Mars could facilitate understanding of the Earth's climate. How do we know that must be true? But it says it might be changed. How the Martian atmospheric might be changed could help in understanding the change of earthly world. But you know, we'll see what they say here. It's all a learning process.
Passage. So question 2. It is probably within the reach of human technology to make the climate of Mars inhabitable. It might be several centuries before people could live there, even with breathing apparatuses, but some of the world's greatest temples and cathedrals took centuries to build. Research efforts now are justified if there is even a chance of making another planet inhabitable. Besides, the intellectual exercise of understanding how the Martian atmosphere might be changed could help in understanding atmospheric changes inadvertently triggered by human activity on Earth. So, first step argument or set of facts, clearly we have an argument here. What is the main point that this author is trying to convey? This entire passage again is built around one final point, and that point is that research efforts are justified. Or more specifically,
Research
that
efforts in
research
oh
efforts
shucks, it's D.
aimed at trying to make the climate of Mars inhabitable are justified.
Oh my gosh, I really wish I was able to underline and highlight. And I'm gonna write what is in the passage. I think research, and I'm just like skimming and reading, and I'm not highlighting anything. I think I have to actively read. I know I have to. Next question, I'm gonna get it right. Next few questions. And if I get it wrong, I'm still learning, so I got it right. Let me read what this say.
And how do we know this? Well, again, it tells us that it's probably
It might be
within the
D.
reach of human
Is that what he's
technology
trying to
to
tell
make the climate of Mars inhabitable. Although it might take several centuries. And then, research efforts are justified if there is even a chance of making another planet inhabitable. The first sentence tells us that there's a chance of making Mars inhabitable, so it must be the case that research efforts are justified. That is the conclusion, that these research efforts are justified based on the premises in the first and second sentences, as well as the last sentence. Last sentence again, that this intellectual exercise might help us understand atmospheric changes inadvertently triggered by human activity on Earth. So, going to the question stem, the main point of the argument is that, again, another typical main point question stem. So let's take a look at A. It is probably technologically
That's not the
possible
main
for
point.
humankind to alter the climate of Mars. Well, that must be true, coming directly from the first sentence. It is probably within the reach of human technology to make the climate of Mars inhabitable. If it's probably within the reach to make it inhabitable, well then it's possible for us to alter the climate. That's how you're making it inhabitable. Currently it's not inhabitable. By altering the climate, you would make it habitable. But the problem with A is that while it must be true, it is not the main point of the argument. B, it would take several centuries to make Mars even marginally inhabitable. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be true because, again, it says would take several centuries, whereas the passage says that it might take several centuries. So B, not necessarily true, and definitely not the main point. So B would be eliminated, which brings me to C.
It's definitely
Making Mars inhabitable is an effort comparable to building a great temple or cathedral.
D, big dog.
Again, we know it could possibly take the same amount of time. An effort comparable seems a little bit too broad, but nevertheless, still clearly not the main point of the passage, so C would be eliminated. Which brings me to D. Research efforts aimed at discovering how to change the climate of Mars are justified. Again, we notice the conclusion that we've identified in the passage is that research efforts are now justified. A direct restatement of the conclusion in the passage, so D would be the correct answer. But again, just making sure, let's check E. Efforts to change the climate of Mars could facilitate understanding of the Earth's climate. Again, directly follows from the last sentence of the passage, but clearly not the main point, so E would be eliminated. Turning the page now, go ahead, give question 3 a try, and we will discuss.
Honestly, This is asking a conclusion about a zoo. Basically, my notes is the zoo director's proving his point. It's a financial crisis. However, withdrawing money from the zoo budget won't help. The zoo is a financial benefit. What is the main conclusion of the zoo director's argument? He's trying to say, he's really just trying to argue that don't cut our budget. A is not really the importance of his argument. False economy, for them to cut it in half, it's gonna have to close. He's not talking about false economy. It's a small zoo city budget, only a small portion of the entire budget. Basically, the answer is D. The zoo will be forced to close if its budget is cut. That's his point. He's trying to prove why they should go get that money elsewhere. And by stating all these things, that they don't even take a lot of money from them, and they give money to the city. And yes, the education and culture climate will be damaged. However, his main concern is that basically, if they close the zoo, it's gonna, that it's only gonna make everything worse. So the zoo will be forced to close.
Question 3. Zoo director. The city is in a financial crisis and must reduce its spending. Nevertheless, at least one reduction measure in next year's budget, cutting the city zoo's funding in half, is false economy. The zoo's current budget equals less than 1% of the city's deficit, so withdrawing support from the zoo does little to help the city's financial situation. Furthermore, the zoo, which must close if its budget is cut, attracts tourists and tax dollars to the city. Finally, the zoo adds immeasurably to the city's cultural climate and thus makes the city an attractive place for business to locate. Argument or set of facts. Clearly, this is an argument. A lot of students go straight to the thus in the last sentence and think that the conclusion is that the zoo makes the city an attractive place for business to locate. But is that the main point of the zoo director's argument?
No, he don't want that thing closed. He's trying to keep his job.
Place for the business to locate?
I feel you. That's how I feel about the library.
The zoo director is making a point here. And
If you
his
cut the
point
library
is
budgets, I'ma be
that
tight.
at
That's how I feel in
least one
Queens.
reduction measure
Stop
next
cutting the
year's
budget. Cut to the library. We need the
cutting
books. We need the
zoo's
Wi-Fi. We
funding
need
in
these
half
things.
is false economy. That is the point of his statements. His conclusion again,
Ah, shit.
cutting the city zoo's funding
Damn,
in
I was
half
thinking it was B
is false
too.
economy.
It's forced economy,
And
so
how do
it's
we
B.
know that? Well, the first premise is that the city
I
is
mean,
in a
I was
financial
thinking it was
crisis and
forced
must
economy,
reduce its
but-
spending.
See, now I'm just assuming.
But why is cutting the city's zoo funding in half false economy? Well, there's 3 different reasons. You notice the 3 premises are: first, the budget is less than 1%.
I'm thinking I know
Budget.
something. At least now I know
Less
what I
than
don't know.
1%.
Maybe I just gotta
Deficit.
go directly in the passage and choose the answers that are creating
Next
stuff
premise.
or must be true questions.
Is that
That's how I was getting
The
them
zoo would have
reading
to
choice
close if its budget
comprehensions
is
right
cut.
on the last LR
The
LR
zoo
passages.
attracts
Last LR reading comprehension passage.
tourists and tax dollars. And lastly, the zoo adds immeasurably to the city's cultural climate. So adds immeasurably to cultural climate of city. Subsidiary conclusion thus makes the city an attractive place to locate.
Basically, it's not this. They never said they're gonna
All of
close
that
it.
to conclude
They didn't say they were
that
cutting it out.
cutting
They said they're gonna cut it in half.
the zoo's funding is false economy.
He literally
So
just
now
said
that
it's
we're
false
clear
economy.
on the structure of this argument, going to the question stem, which one of the following is the main conclusion of the zoo director's argument? You notice it says main conclusion here, another typical main point question stem. So let's take a look here at A. Reducing spending is the only means the city has of responding to the current financial crisis. Again, we know that the city must reduce its spending, but nowhere does it say that this is the only means. So A is not even necessarily true. Definitely not the main point, so A would be out. B, it would be false economy for the city to cut the zoo's budget in half. And you notice B is a direct restatement of the conclusion.
Direct restatement of the conclusion of the
cutting
passage.
the city's
I gotta
zoo's
remember it's a
funding in
direct
half
restatement.
is
I'm
false
not
economy.
making nothing up. I don't have to think too hard. It's a direct restatement. Everything you need is inside the passage in LR. Everything you need is in the passage. Let me make a hold on. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is the passage. Everything you need. Everything. Roll note structure. 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 Everything you need in LR is the passage. Everything you need in LR is everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is in everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is the passage. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is in the passage.
And deficit are not the same thing.
Budget and deficit
So
are not the same thing. That's
C
why I
is
see
not
that word.
necessarily true. Definitely not
Everything
the
you
main
need in
point.
LR is in the passage.
Yeah. Again, the passage talks about 1% of the city's deficit. C says a very small portion of the city's entire budget. Not the same thing. Moving to D, the zoo will be forced to close if its budget is cut. Again, directly stated in the passage, but this is a premise, so D, again, would be eliminated. And just checking E, the city's educational and cultural climate will be irreparably damaged if the zoo is forced
They never
to
mentioned
close. The problem with
Everything
E
you need in the law is in the passage. Everything you need.
is that the only thing we know about the city's cultural climate
Everything you need in the law is in the passage.
is that the
Everything you need
zoo
in the law
adds
is in the passage.
immeasurably
Everything
to
you need in
and
the
directly
law is
from
in
the
the
last
passage.
sentence.
Everything.
So clearly, we're
Everything you need
damaged
in the
if
law
the
is in
zoo
the
is forced
passage.
to
Everything you
close.
need in the law is in the
We know anything
passage.
about it
Everything you
being
need in the law is in the
irreparably
passage.
damaged.
Everything.
Not to mention, the city's educational climate is never even mentioned in the passage.
If it's not
So
mentioned,
E
throw it out.
is not necessarily true and definitely not the main point. So E would be eliminated.
I'm gonna say that if it's not mentioned, throw
E
it out.
again would be the correct answer. So now turning the page, we get to our fourth and final main point question. So go ahead, give question 4 a try, and we will.
I gotta put that in quotes. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. Don't think about the future, think about the now. The now is the future. Everything you need in LR is in the passage. I'm about to make LSAT shirts. Helen. It was wrong of my brother Mark to tell our mother that the reason he had missed her birthday party that evening before was that he had been in a traffic accident and that by the time he was released from the hospital emergency room, the party was long over. Saying something that is false can never be other than morally wrong, and there has been no such accident. Mark had simply forgotten about the party. The main conclusion in Helen's argument is that Mark did not tell his mother the truth. The real reason Mark missed his mother's birthday party was that he forgotten about it. See, it's wrong to attempt to avoid blame for one's failure to do something. Yeah, it was wrong of Mark to tell his mother that he missed the birthday party as a result of having been in a traffic accident. It's always wrong not to tell the truth. So, it never said, well, everything you need in LR is in the passage. It's either D or the main conclusion is that it was wrong of my brother to tell our mother that the reason he had missed her birthday party that evening before was that he had been in a traffic accident. That's her main point. She started off with saying it. E is definitely not it. And why are you creating a whole like parable about it was wrong to attempt to avoid blame for someone to do? It has nothing to do with me. This is about Mark. The real reason Mark missed his mother's birthday was that he had forgotten all about it. No, that's jumping to a conclusion. And see, that is what happens a lot in my family. Like, I don't know if you noticed the conversations on the phone is just about how we speak. Like, with my brother, they was like, the bank said that he used my card. No, the bank didn't say that Isaiah used your card to purchase Panda Express. He's been focused on that for a year. You believe that it's him and saying that's the case. So all you have to do to solve that issue is change your card information. But that's not the case. The bank never said he did nothing. The bank doesn't even know him. What it is that in comparison to this, I cannot just assume and make a whole parable about doing things outside of one's control. That was never in the passage. So everything that I need in LR is in the passage. Let me go in the passage. And when I go in the passage, we know that Mark didn't tell his mother the truth. But the main reason for her argument is that it was wrong of Mark to tell his mother that he had missed her birthday party as a result of having been in a traffic accident. That's directly in verbatim of what is there. It's literally in A, he did not tell his mother the truth.
Yes.
We know that, but it must be true of what we supported because everything
Alright,
that
so
we need in
question
LR is in the passage.
Helen, it was wrong of my brother Mark to tell our
The
mother
rap is
that
really
the
what
reason he
takes
had
me
missed
after
her
the
birthday
hood.
party the evening before was that he had been in a traffic accident.
Real
And that by
poetry.
the time he was released from the
Real booty
hospital
butt
emergency
poetry.
room, the party was long
Real
over. Saying something
poetry.
that is false can never be other than morally wrong, and there had been no such accident. Mark had simply forgotten all about the party. Alright, so again, first step, argument of facts. Clearly this is an argument, and what is the point Helen is trying to convey? And you notice, her main point is that it was wrong of her brother Mark to tell their mother that the reason he had missed her birthday party the evening before was that he had been in a traffic accident, and that by the time he was released from the hospital emergency room, the party was long over. So that is Helen's conclusion. And how does she arrive at that conclusion? Well, she gives us a general principle, saying something that is false can never be other than morally wrong, and then applies it to this case because there was no such accident. Mark had simply forgotten all
Everything
about
that
the
you need in
party.
LR is in the passage. So it has to be.
Conclude, it was wrong of Mark to tell his mother that the reason he missed her party the evening before was that he was in a traffic accident. So we look at the question stem now. The main conclusion drawn in Helen's argument is that. So again, you notice, main conclusion. So looking for a direct restatement of the first sentence.
Marin, we gotta
that
work
it was
together.
wrong of my brother Mark to tell our mother that the reason he
You
had
the
missed
brains,
the birthday party the
I'm the
evening
music.
before was that he had been in a
I could make
traffic
a song
accident,
for LSAT
and that by the
Max.
time he was released from the hospital emergency room, the party was long over.
So we
let's
had
take a look
roll
here
note
at A.
structure. Roll
Mark
note
did not tell
structure. I
his
remember
mother
I was
the
having a
truth.
hard difficulty
Clearly that
remembering
must be true. He told her he was in an accident. There was no such
the roll note
accident.
structure
So
is
clearly
in my
Mark did
iPad.
not tell his mother the truth. But is that the main point of this argument? You notice the answer there is no. The main point is not that he did not tell the truth. It's that it was
Everything we need
wrong
in LR
of
is in the
Mark.
passage. Everything
not
we
tell
need.
the truth.
Everything we need in LR is in the passage. Everything we need in LR.
Which brings us to B.
Everything we need in LR
The
is
real
in the
reason
passage.
Mark
Everything-
missed his mother's birthday party was that he had
everything we
forgotten
need in
all
LR
about
is
it.
in the passage.
Again,
Everything we
it
need
must be
in
true.
LR
If
is
you
in the
notice
passage.
directly from the last part of the passage, Mark had simply forgotten all about the party.
Everything
But
we need in
is
LR
that
is
the
in
main
passage.
point that Helen is
Everything
trying
we
to
need in
convey?
LR is in the passage. That's
it's
not
not
her
about why
main
he missed
point.
the
Like
party.
she knows that,
That
but the
he
main
was
point of her
wrong
making this
to
argument is
tell
that
his
why would
mother
you say it was a
that the
traffic
reason he
accident,
missed
and then
it
she puts the
was because of
moral when
traffic
she's saying like
accident, when
that's
that was
morally
not the
wrong. If
case.
she didn't say it was morally wrong,
So
then
again,
okay, would have been the
he
answer.
could be
But
eliminated.
no, she said it was
Moving to C.
morally wrong.
It is wrong to attempt to avoid blame.
No,
for
we're
one's
not trying to
failure do
recognize the
something
real
by
reason.
claiming that
They want to
one
know what
was
must be
prevented
true
from
in the
doing that
argument.
thing by events outside one's control.
This test is mind splitting. I'm gonna walk in the test and I'm gonna wear the same wig.
But
I'm gonna be in
again,
there
it's
like this
too
in the chair.
broad. it's not necessarily true. All we know about is this scenario. We have a general principle saying something that's false
like this
and
in
never
it here. I'm
other
be
than
like-
morally wrong. And then it takes that principle and applies it to Mark's case to conclude that it was wrong of Mark. But nothing about this broader principle of
In
avoiding blame
Malibu.
by claiming someone was prevented from doing that thing by events outside of one's control.
Look at me singing my Pepperdine song when
Not
I land
necessarily
there.
true, and definitely not the main point of the passage. Which brings me to D. It was wrong of Mark to tell his mother that he had missed her birthday party as a
Right
result of
next
having
to
been in
you.
a traffic accident. And you notice D
In
must be true, and it
Malibu.
also is the main point of the argument.
Next
A
to
direct
you.
restatement
It's
of
only
the
right
first
for me to live
sentence,
in
that it was wrong of my
Malibu,
brother Mark to tell our
California.
mother that the reason he had missed
Only
the birthday party the evening
right.
before is that he had been in a traffic
Nobody can see
accident.
that.
By the time he was released from the hospital emergency room, the party was long over.
And I'm right. All because I made a song. It gotta
But
be a
again,
direct statement.
just making sure, checking E, it is always
Clock
wrong
it.
not to tell the truth. Again, that follows saying something that is false can never be other than morally wrong. So it is always wrong to not tell the truth. Problem with E is that while it must be true, it is our general principle. It is not the main point of Helen's
Main
argument.
point must be
So
true in the main point.
eliminate. And that brings us to the end of our discussion of main point questions. Again, not a very common question type, but a very important skill. Because anytime we encounter an argument on the logical reasoning portion of the LSAT, we want to be able to identify the conclusion and the premises given in support of that conclusion so that we can clearly understand the argument before proceeding to the question stem. So we start off here with main point questions to make sure we can hone that skill.
I fake want to go back, but I mean, I have it right here. So with the zoo situation and it closing down, with the closing down of the zoo, it's like, no, the first one was the fire. Basically, we know that this must be true with the Thomas, because he must have seen it, because he went from his house to the municipal building, or is it the library? Was that the same thing? Who knows? That doesn't really matter. But no one in the vicinity of the fire like that, no one in the vicinity of a fire like that and failed to notice it. Even if Thomas said he didn't notice it, that don't really matter. But what matters is that he saw the fire this morning because he went past the building. Number 2, research efforts are now justified if there's even a chance of making another planet inhabitable. So this is about the Mars one. So literally research efforts. So research efforts is restated, a direct restatement. If it's not mentioned in the passage, throw it out. So what's mentioned in the passage? Thomas must have seen it. Thomas saw the fire this morning. If they said the fire went from the morning to the afternoon, boom, he's seen it. That's the main point. Everything you need in LR's in the passage. You don't need to know about him going from point A to B for real. They just don't know stuff in. So justified. Research efforts justified. Research efforts discovering how to change the planet of Mars justified. Zoo director, financial crisis, withdrawing money from the zoo, budget won't help, zoo is beneficial. But we didn't note that it would be false economy. False economy was directly in the passage. Mark did a lie. It was wrong of Mark to say, tell his mother he missed her birthday, result of traffic accident. So that's the direct statement. I like that. Shout out to you, Marin. We about to do 30 questions. I bet. Logical reasoning. Oh, this is the main point video. This wasn't the questions. Oh, I know I should probably log in on my computer. I can watch the videos on my iPad. However, when it comes to doing it, I think I should do it on my computer because I'm going to be taking the actual LSAT on my computer. And I know it's tempting, I know, to surf the web. Trust me, I know this. But I'm going to take it on here because I'm not taking my LSAT on my iPad. I'm taking it on this very device right here. So, let's transition. Let's transition. So this is my video device. I recommend having a video one. And then I recommend having a notebook to take your notes. Or you can take your notes on your video device. Whatever works really for you. Being that I have a notebook here, so I'm using my notebook to do that. Have your pencil and your highlighter. And I also have a pen. I have two actually. I have this light one. But it's been really, not really a distraction, but an additional asset that I don't really need to have. That light pen, because when I could barely see it and I haven't been using it. So, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to put this back. I'm going to keep this here because this is for when I select my answer choices. It has a stylus at the bottom of it for my iPad. I can do things like that because I live alone. Just an app. Back downstairs. It's down through the dance between us. They population or nothing. Okay. Without further ado. Damn, it's really 5:13 and nobody responded to none of my emails. I feel like that's actually crazy. I like right my left hand, so like, ooh, let's not mess that up. My one last adaptive piece for my math. I'm gonna go into logical reasoning. What else? Is there an app on LSAT Max on the computer? No, it is in fact not. Okay, that's fine. I run the website. Your dream LSAT awaits. Your goal. Starting 135, best 135. Target 180. Okay. Bam bam, badi bim bam bam, badi bim. I wonder if I'm on the computer and I like, well, I did finish it, but I don't know, it didn't register that it was complete. You know probably why, because they probably want me to go back and go through it again for study purposes, so maybe that's why they
Do
don't.
too much at first. And that means we read each passage 3 times. First for the main point, next for the structure, and finally for the author. But in our next video, you'll see how these 3 tasks pay off. We'll see you in the next video lesson, which will cover the types of questions on reading comp.
Oh, it is completed on the computer, at least marked that it is. Not on the iPad.
Predict the types of questions the main point drilled down in just 1 or 2 readings. It took us 3 readings this time, but we'll see the payoff in the questions. Join us in the following videos in which we'll go over this passage's questions.
Okay, so all of them are checked off. So that's pretty good. Yeah, it's just a 70% complete. That's okay. I'll be fine. So I'll get off of here. Videos for iPad. Test questions for computer. Main point questions. Oh, and I can highlight on the computer. It's just a better interface on the laptop to do this types of questions. So I'm gonna exit and then go back in because 7 seconds of me talking. 5:17. The term pit bull does not design a breed of dog as designate. A breed of dog as is the term German Shepherd and Poodle. It's like the term seeing eye dog and police dog, which designate dogs according to what they do. If you take two German Shepherds and place them side by side, you cannot tell the appearance alone. You cannot tell by appearance alone which is the police dog and which is the seeing eye dog. Which of the following is the main point of the passage? German Shepherds can be pit bulls. No. Pit bulls can be distinguished from other kinds of dogs by appearance alone. No. A dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not because of its breed. No. German Shepherds can function both as police and seeing eye dogs. No. Some breeds of dogs cannot be distinguished from other breeds of dogs by appearance alone. Oh, incorrect. The correct answer was a dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not because of its breed. Some pit bull does not. Oh, if you take two German Shepherds and place them side by side. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me get out of here. I want to do it again. I have too much of an ego. I see why I'm wrong. I see why I'm wrong. I see why I'm wrong. Because I'm trying to do it quickly. And that's okay. Because I'm learning. I just don't want to wait till the end. Take. I already seen the answer. A dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not because of its breed. Can any research be found to validate the contention? Let me just no. Contention that those who spend time plucking away their grains are more negative attitude to elderly than those who shake their souls about grains. As a person actively lead to murder, to overgeneralize, and there is no necessary connection. Certainly, it is reasonable to like the elderly, yet dislike the idea of impaired eyesight and hearing. Furthermore, holding negative attitudes towards other people merely because they are old is immoral. According to nearly universally accepted ethical standards, there's nothing more immoral. I have to use this to highlight. I'm going to use pink. There's nothing more immoral about disliking someone. There's nothing immoral about disliking some commitments of the aging process. Main point. It can be assumed that people who dislike some of their physical conduct of growing old necessarily have. It cannot. I think it's really A. Being elderly is fine, but the process of becoming elderly is not. And people need to understand the distinction between the two. No, we talked about roll, no structure, roll, no structure, roll, no structure. And then we talked about everything you need in LRs in the passage. 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 To dislike the elderly is immoral, and do so because one dislike the physical contaminants of growing old is unreasonable. That's not it. D, since no one likes us, but it's wrong to dislike the ugly way because of their physical character traits. It literally is A. It cannot be assumed that people who dislike some of the That doesn't mean you have necessarily negative feelings about the ugly. And now this is making a whole opinion. To dislike some of the physical condiments growing old, reasonable, while to dislike the elderly is immoral. No. It cannot be assumed that people who dislike some of their physical condiments of growing old necessarily have negative feelings. That is correct. It has to be. Yeah. It worthy and doesn't use the same language. We looked at the conclusion, looking back at this thing. Because everything we needed LR is in the passage. That's why it's correct. Thank God, hallelujah. As symbols of the freedom of the wilderness, bald eagles have unique capacity to inspire people and foster in them a sympathetic attitude towards the needs of others threatened species. Clearly, without that sympathy and the political will, it endangers. The need of more obscure species will go unmet. The conservation needs of many obscure species can only be met by beginning with the conservation of this symbolic species, the bald eagle. As symbols of freedom of the bald eagle, inspired Boston for the battle for the other species without. Because bald eagles symbolize freedom, restriction of first content rather than other threatened species do not wrong. People love the wilderness can be wrong. The increase in public sympathy, the need is probably C. The conversation I anticipated to be C. But basically, my anticipation is that it has to say something about, bald eagles. Well, because bald eagles symbolize freedom, conservation, and rather than one mother, no, they're making a something else, another assumption, because everything I needed LRs in the passage, so it's not A, D, or E, it's B or C. The conservation of bald is the first necessary and other endangered species. Without public sympathy for conservation and needs of many symbolic species will go unmet. So I think it says directly in here, the conservation needs of many obscure species can only be met by beginning the conversation of the symbolic species, the bald eagle. So that is the conclusion. So it's between B and C. Without increased public, no. But then it also says clearly without the sympathy and political of the need will go unmet. I really believe it has to do with B or C. Without increased public sympathy, the needs of the symbolic species will go unmet. No, it has to say something about bald eagle. So it starts with the bald eagle. The conservation of bald eagles is the first necessary step. The need of more species will go unmet. I think it's actually C. Clearly, without the sympathy and the political will, and the need will engenders. Clearly, without the sympathy and the political will, it engenders the need of more obscure species will go unmet. Without, no, it didn't say it didn't say. See, you gotta pay attention to what you're reading, because it says clearly without the sympathy and the political will, it engenders the need of more obscure species will go unmet. However, C that I was about to change my answer to was without increased public sympathy for conservation. It didn't ask for, public anything, sympathy. The need of many symbolic species will go unmet. It said more obscure, so it has to be B. The conservation of bald eagles is the first step, and I am correct. Like a number of other articles, Ian Ragnan Hall article relied on a recent survey in which over half of the couples applying for divorces listed money as a major problem in their marriages. Ragnall's conclusion from the survey data is not, see, you cannot add words when you're reading as well, is that his conclusion is that Financial problems are the major problems in marriage, is an important factor of contributing to high divorce rates. So don't get married if you're broke. Don't come over here. Don't try to talk to me if you don't got money. I'm flocking at you like a bird, bok bok. Yet couples often express other types of marital frustrations in financial terms. So they're even saying express other types of marital frustration in financial terms. Despite appearances, the survey data do not establish that financial problems are the major problems in contemporary marriage. Oh, despite how it looks, we have to put some orange highlighting here. Sherbert is giving the survey data do not establish that financial problems are major problems in contemporary marriages. So, what expresses the main point? So, we're saying Ian's article relied on a survey for divorce list as money as a major let me turn this yellow. His article relied on a recent survey in which over half of the couples applied for divorce list saying money as a major problem in their marriage. His conclusion from the survey data is that financial problems is the major thing, but it's expressing the main point of the passage. Financial problems are not the important contributing factors to the divorce rate. But when we think about specifically row note structure, and we think about everything I need in LRs in the passage, let's eliminate. Many articles wrongly claim that. No, we're assuming. We're not worried about other articles. Over half of the couples applying for divorces listed money as a major problem in their marriage. That is in there. The conclusion drawn in Ragnall's article is inadequately justified. It didn't say anything. We cannot draw conclusions. We want the main point that is in the passage. Marital problems are more easily solved by marriage. Why are we doing that? Financial problems are not a major factor in contributing to divorce rates. The main point is that over half the couples applying for divorces listed money as a major problem in their marriages. And that's incorrect. The correct answer is C. I got C wrong. So, article reasoning C is the conclusions. Yes, I knew it was inadequately justified, but it didn't say in the article that, well, it did say the survey data do not establish that financial problems are major. Yeah, that makes sense. See, they noticed what I was doing, and they got me. But it's okay, I'm gonna get the Mac. What I chose was D. And I think I can go in and get Excel since I'm no longer watching a video and get the Excel app. No. Google Excel sheets, because Marin actually created an actual study guide for me. Just answer my passport. I feel like bugs is crawling on me for real. Marin created a study calendar for me, or a blind review journal, where I can, no issue, you understand the question, you got it right. What is this for? Original section? Is this for the practice test? Let me refresh this because this is a little delayed in the understanding of my readings. No issue, you understood the question, got it right both attempts, good job. Timing issue, you probably missed the question as a result of time pressure. Why is it taking so long to download? Go to the App Store. with time pressure. Write in, what can I do differently next time to get a similar question correct? What could you have done to better anticipate the correct answer? The sheet may as many timing issues. Consider time practice before the next practice test. Confidence issue, you probably talked yourself out of the correct answer. There's probably a trick to make the test makers roll in the question that you fell for in your sheet. What? Why can't it be installed? Look, I'm trying to install sheets and I'm trying to read and I'm trying to take notes for the test. Like, what is the reason you're trying to tell me I can't open my work, my sheets app? Like, what do I gotta delete? What's up? What's specifically on my iPad? Delta? Don't worry, I don't care about these Delta games. Can I trash them? Wait a second. What's in my downloads? I need that one. Delete button. What's going on? Not enough storage. I'd be damned. How much more storage do you need? Don't even use PixLR. Never use Dailyo or use Gratitude. Never use TickTick or Trello. I never use the Adobe Express. I never use Coursera. Notion. I'm not logging in because then y'all gonna start asking me to pay for things. I don't even want it. Or Google Keep. Let's contact Sync. No, this is another platform. My stuff should already magically be in my Google contacts. Now, you mean to tell me I still got no space for sheets? Oh, okay. And I don't even use Gemini on here. Nor McLaurin. My Rollins Connect don't even work. This app is broken. And I'm not an alumni. Obligation, price, district kit, SoundCloud. I might use it someday. Shazam, Insight Timer. I don't use much apps. I haven't used Just Dance in a minute, and I do want to get back to that. Neither have I used HBO Max or Peacock in a minute. I don't know Just Dance. Pluto is cool. Yeah, more Hulu, all this nice stuff. Tubi, free stuff. I'm not paying for anything right now. Okay. I'm just trying to have my Google Sheets open so I can locate. And right here. So question, blind review journal, understanding issue. You probably, okay, confidence issue. You probably talked yourself out of the correct answer. This is probably a trick. Test makers who wrote it into the question that you fell for. And what can I do differently next time to get a similar question correct? Write about what you think the trick was and how you plan on avoiding falling for it again. If your sheet has many confident issues on a particular type of question, consider getting untimed practice with this question type to reinforce understanding and gain confidence. This type of review should have a lower priority than understanding issue review before the next practice test. Understanding issue. You probably misunderstood or misapproached this question type, and what can I do differently next time to get a similar question correct? Write about how you misunderstood. Or misapproached the type of question and how you plan on fixing that issue. If your sheet has many understanding issues for a particular type of question, consider going back to lesson videos to get thorough review and getting extensive untimed practice with this question type. This type of question should have the highest priority in your review before next practice test. So this is on the practice test that I'll be doing logical reasoning 1, 2, and reading comprehension. I like how there's notes here. If there's no issue, I'm trying to figure out where would I write it though. Oh, so 29. So, oh, he wants me to color code it. You probably understood this as a result. Missed this question as a result of time. Original section. Second attempt. What happened? Oh, so I go like this. What happened? So like change. I got it right. Kept the same. I got it wrong. Whatever. Passage type. Oh, what did I do? So I'm picking up on my patterns of what I'm doing. Passage type, solitary, comparative. Okay, those are 2 different types of lessons. Question type. Subject matter science, legal, humanities, social science, other. Okay. Conceptual philosophy. Question type, main point, minor point, argument, tone, extensive application. Why the answer is correct. If applicable, why the change I chose incorrect. What to do next, definitely next time to get a similar question correct. And I'll just say NA. If I got it correct, I'll just say why. Why the answer is right. So that's like, why is the answer correct? Like if I got it wrong. You understood this question, got it right both attempts if there's no issue. Second attempt. For your next. So this is a blind of what happened. I guess I'll color code it when it's good. Yellow for confidence and color code what I don't understand red. It's kind of hard to see some of these names. Like I ain't gonna lie. 30 minutes, 1 hour. Okay. Test. He didn't say do that first. These are not practices. So I'm gonna let it quite frankly exit and come back. Because now that I got this up, this is my main point questions. Which I'm really excited about having because I can check it out here. And I locked that right now, and I'm gonna do the written main point retake. The term pit bull does not designate that word. Ah, we know that. Answer was C. No, that's not the case. We gotta go in the passage. So it's E. Oh shit. I'm gonna exit because that was embarrassing. I just guessed. And I literally had that right. I didn't write it down here. But this is my logical reasoning main point practice. I actually have to read because I don't got this type of Mike Ross memory just yet. As I thought I'm gonna remember how I break it down, which I can, but I still have to read it. X, Y, and Z. The term pit bull does not designate a separate and words. Like the term sting on dog and police dog would designate dogs according to what they do. If you take two German shepherds and place them side by side, you cannot tell by appearance alone which is police dog and which is sting eye dog. Which of the following is the main point of the passage? German shepherds can be pit bulls. Pit bulls can be distinguished from other kinds of dogs by appearance alone. A dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not its breed. German shepherds can function as both police dogs and seeing eye dogs. Yeah, because it's talking about having two German shepherds side by side. One is a seeing dog, one is a police dog. Some breeds of dog cannot be distinguished from other breeds of dogs by appearance alone. I chose E and it was wrong, and I want to see why eventually. German shepherds can be pit bulls. Pit bulls can be distinguished. A dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not its breed. German shepherds a dog is a pit bull because of what it does. Okay, so it's C is correct, and I chose D. The institution reflects the specific phrase the author applies to the general context. Other people it does not agree. Oh, what it does, like, yeah, seeing eye dog and a police dog. Literally, that is what it does. So I definitely understand that. I think I'm gonna go back and erase this from, because I started talking about Ragnals. I think I'm gonna go actually and do the blind review journal in this main point questions section of my notebook. So I'll save the practice test prep for my iPad one. So I have a system that'll be going on. Sheesh. Oh my gosh, it literally tracks all my previous review sessions. Number 1, a dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not its breed. So basically they're trying to say, even though I'm not against it, German shepherds, and seeing, oh my god, seeing eye dog and a German shepherd is okay. When argument implies a general statement to a specific situation, it usually does so to reach its conclusion. Argument or facts are flawed, so it is a flawed type of argument or fact. Is an argument valid or flawed? Flawed. A dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not because of its breed. key. Question summary. Key is that people describe what a dog does. It's not a breed. In that way, similar to police dog or seeing-eye dog. If you place two German shepherds next to each other, you couldn't tell which is a police dog and which is a seeing-eye dog. Right, because two different professions. The correct answer will pass a two-pronged test. Must be true and it must be the main point. Answer anticipation. The last sentence is an example, so it must serve a purpose. What does it support? It supports the idea of the police and seeing dog aren't breeds, but rather descriptive of what, a dog does. Not its breed. How do rather descriptive of what a dog does. How do pit bulls work into this argument? The author contends that they are in the descriptor of action category, not breed category. Since the stimulus applies this general idea, a term can describe what a dog does, not its breed. To a specific scenario, that application serves as the conclusion. Key takeaways. When an argument applies a general statement to a specific solution, feeling sorry for yourself is expensive. Oh no, I won't do that. I'll get up and do the work. It usually does so to reach its conclusion. When an argument applies a general statement to a specific solution, general statement to a specific solution, it usually does so to reach its conclusion. And the answer is a dog is a pit bull because of what it does, not its breed. A general statement to a specific solution. Could any research be found when plucking the gray hairs? This one was fairly easy, I can say, because it was more so I don't think I'm gonna write down the answer to each question. I mean, it'll take more time, might as well. I have nothing but time. It cannot be assumed. I believe it was A. Wait a second. What was the answer? I think the other one was C. I'll go with a choice so I can see A, B, C. Yeah. Can any research be found to validate I know the main point was basically saying that doesn't mean it cannot be assumed that people, I think this is going to help me pick up speed for when I write my low note structures by writing out the right answer to each question. And it helps me think logically and what logical sentences should look like. People who dislike some of the physical. And when I take the practice test, I'll be quiet, but like learning, I'm gonna definitely talk. Because it helps me learn out loud. Like a number of other articles, Ian Regnall's article relied on a recent survey in which over half the couples applying for divorces listed money as a major problem in their marriage. Regnall's conclusion from the survey data is that financial problems are the major problem in marriages and an important factor contributing to the high divorce rate. Yet, couples often express other types of marital frustration in financial terms. Despite appearances, the survey data do not establish that financial problems are the major problem in contemporary marriages. So he looked at the survey data in the article. However, couples with verbally said that other marital frustrations in financial terms, and despite what it looks like, the data does not establish that financial problems are a major problem in contemporary marriage. So they try to break down other problems in financial terms. So it's not really that. So basically, the conclusion drawn is in the article is inadequately justified because yet it's flipping it. Because the survey says other than the article. That he picked up. Ragnalls. Question summary. The United States government tries to protect valuable natural resources, but one resource has been ignored for too long. In the United States, each bushel of corn produced might result in the loss of as much as 2 bushels of topsoil. Moreover, in the last 100 years, the topsoil in many states, which one was about 14 inches thick, has been eroded to only 6 or 8 inches. Nonetheless, federal expenditures for nationwide soil conservation programs have remained at ridiculously low levels. Total federal expenditures for nationwide soil conservation programs have been less than the allocations of some individual states. Which one of the following best expresses the main point of the argument? Corn is not a cost-effective product in temperature farms where a layer of topsoil 6 to 8 inches thick cannot support the continued cultivation of corn. Soil conservation responsibility of the federal government at the state. The federal government expended for soil in various states has been inequitable. The federal government should spend much more time on conservation than it's been spending. It should, no. That's a keyword that we don't need. The layer of topsoil, no. It has to be D. Because it's saying the federal government expended for soil in various states have been inequitable. Is that word here? However, it's saying nonetheless have remained at ridiculously low levels. Total have been less than the in some states. So what they're trying to say is they're saying should spend more on conservation. Correct. It may not be immediately apparent, but the answer is a paraphrase of the main point. The original conclusion stated that one resource has been ignored for too long. That resource is topsoil, and the initial sentence lets us know that the federal government is doing one thing, doing the ignoring. Okay, the initial statement of the United States government generally tries to protect the value or ignored too long. Okay. That resource is topsoil. In the initial sentence, thus it's not the federal government is the one doing the ignoring. The reason given for its conclusions that the feds is spending less than state allocations. If low level of funding is the reason to believe ridiculously low funding suggests the resource has been ignored, then the author is implying the federal government should spend more than they are. Right. And what did I choose? Z, the federal government expenditures for certain states have been inequitable. There's no discussion of fairness, equity, and the scope is out of answers. Then that is freaking true. It never said anything about that. So, yeah. I'm knocked off my high horse. So I'm going to write the correct answers in the book, but that doesn't mean that I have got it right the first time. I just have to take it here and know to get it right next time. And then eventually I'm going to have to go break down with my understanding these questions and why I'm getting it wrong. And then I'll be able to break down in my blind review journal what that looks like. So this would be C was correct. For 4. E was this one. So we can apply what must be true. And has to again be directly in the past. This never said anything about equity. Right now I think I'm probably just burnt out, but I'll persist. I was playing a lot, talking a lot, venting a lot, mentally thinking a lot. But these are the type of articles that I have to leave and come back. So I'll come back tomorrow and probably do this again, or maybe later and take a break after I do all of them and understand why it's correct, like a little bit quicker before I move on to the next. A law that is not consistently enforced does not serve its purpose. Law without enforcement is not law. It's merely a statute. It's merely statute, promise of law. To institute real law is not merely to declare that such behavior is forbidden. It is to punish those who violate that edict. Furthermore, those who enforce law must punish without favor for their friends or malice for their enemies. To punish only those one dislikes while forgiving others is not to enforce law, but to engage in arbitrary and unjust exercise of power. The main point of this passage is that instituting real law consists in the exercise of power, authorizing enforcement of the punishments, the unbiased punishments of prohibited behavior, understanding the purpose of law, clearly defining unacceptable behavior. So it's not D or E. Exercise of power. I don't believe it says that not enforcing law is an unjust exercise of power. So that's what it says when you don't enforce the law. But the answer has to be, why is the time frozen on 124? Real law consists in, that's what it's really wondering. What does real law consist in? That's what it's asking. So it's not A and it's not C or D. So it has to be authorizing the enforcement of punishments, the unbiased punishment of prohibited behavior. So it says it has to be unbiased and not just authorizing. So it has to be C, and I'm correct. You know, it's not that that matters enforcing the punishment, but it has to be unbiased. There's no mystery as to why figurative paintings revived in the late 1970s. Oh, why figurative painting revived in the late 1970s. People want to look at recognizable images. That is the main point. Sorting out art theories reflected in abstract paintings is not subtle for the scene. Sense of empathy that comes from looking at a realistic painting in the figure of a landscape. Perhaps members of the art viewing, now this is a support of the art viewing, the public resented abstract art because they felt that it's a large lack of realistic subject matter, was a rejection of the viewers and their world. So in the 1970s, it revived that people want to look at recognizable. Sorting out art theories reflected in abstract painting is no substitute for the sense of empathy that comes from, again, a realistic painting of a figure in a landscape. With the following most accurate, that's the main point of the passage. Abstract paintings often include shapes or forms that are objects. Artistic preference. Okay, let me reread. There is no mystery as to why. Oh, it only stops at 1 minute and 24 seconds. So let me just turn off that. There's no mystery as to why figurative paintings revived in the late. Sorry, people want to look at sorting out art theories reflected in abstract paintings is no substitute for the sense of empathy that comes from looking at a realistic painting in a figure in a landscape. Perhaps members of the art viewing public resented abstract art because they felt that it lack of realistic subject matter with a rejection of the viewers in their world. So it revived in the 1970s. This is a statement. People want to look at recognizable images. No substitute for empathy that comes from looking at realistic paintings or of a figure in a landscape. Another support. Perhaps members in the support. Paintings that depict a recognizable physical world rather than emotional world requires more talent to create. No, we're not talking about more talent. The general public is unable to understand that there is language abstract movement. No. The artistic preference of the art viewing public is simulated the revival. Abstract paintings often include shapes or forms that are suggestive of real or emotions. The art viewing public wish to see traditional subjects treated in a non-traditional manner. Paintings that depict the recognizable physical world rather than the emotional world of the art side require more. So no. B and C is no. A general public is unable to understand the theories on which abstract painting is based. The artistic purpose of the art viewing public stimulated the revival. Perhaps members of the art viewing public resented abstract art because they felt that it lacked realistic subject matter, the rejection of the viewers and their world. I'm curious. What is the answer? No. Being public will see traditional so rather treated in a non-traditional manner. No. Honestly, D. The answer is E. Why is the answer E? The author states that what people wanted explains the revival, and the answer reflects that the artistic preferences of the art viewing public simulated the revival. Right. Oh, a lot of stuff can go on in this area and you don't even notice it because I have this up. Perfect. And where does it say that? Art viewing public. There's no mystery why it revived and they wanted to see it again. That's their preference now. Arguing that there was no trade between Europe and East Asia in the early Middle Ages because there was no written record of trade, is arguing that a variable sighting of the Yeti proves that the creature does not exist, but the absence of sightings cannot prove that it does not. That is basically special point. Evidence is in order to prove that there was a trade between wrong. The trade between Europe and Asia did not exist in the early no. The view that there was trade between can only be disproven. Evidence that the trading is then there is that the Yeti exists. It has to be E. That's what they're literally trying to. Oh! Why'd I get it wrong? This stimulates that there are no written records of trade. Oh, well, there is. I'm choosing out of scope things here. The trade between Europe and Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot be established simply by the absence of certain. The trade between Europe. Wait, what was the time frame? The trade between Europe and East Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot exist simply by the absence of certain sort of evidence that trade existed. Correct. This inter-effect stimulus-based connection that missing records doesn't prove something didn't happen. So it's the correct answer. The trade between Europe and Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages. The trade between Europe and Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot be established simply by absence of certain sort of evidence that trade existed. I have to reword that. The trade between Europe and East Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot be established simply by the I need a summary after this. The trade between Europe and East Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot be established. Okay. Which of the following? arguing that there was no trade between Europe and East Asia in the Middle Ages because there is no written records of such trade is like arguing that the Yeti, an ape-like creature supposedly existing in the Himalayas, does not exist because there has been no scientifically confirmed sightings. A verifiable sighting of that Yeti would prove that the creature does exist, but the absence of sightings cannot prove that it does. Which of the following best expresses the point of this argument? The trade between Europe and East Asia did not exist in the early Middle Ages, cannot be established simply by the absence of certain evidence that trade existed. So you need to have evidence to prove that something is correct. In other words, main point, valid or flawed. That is valid. It's not flawed. Like you need to, it's an argument or facts. It's an argument. One argument is similar to another argument and they're both bad. Stimulus summary. Strategy over the correct answer will pass the two-pronged test. Must be true. Must be the main point of the argument. The argument just consists of a single statement of the conclusion. These two arguments are similar and both bad. The correct answer will probably rely more on understanding the convoluted language. Convoluted. Especially where research is extremely complex and difficult to follow. Right, it was convoluted. The basic idea is that a lack of evidence for something doesn't prove it doesn't exist. This concept is actually a common error in reasoning on the LSAT. Those show up in more places than just flawed parallel reasoning and errors in reasoning questions. Key takeaway, learn your common errors in reasoning. Learn my common errors in reasoning. They repeat throughout the LSAT, not just on the question that asks about them. Asks about them. Some legislators refuse to commit public funds for new scientific research if they cannot be assured that the research will contribute to the public welfare. Such a position ignores the lesson of experience. Many important contributions to the public welfare that resulted from scientific research were never predicted as potential outcomes of that research. Important contributions to the public welfare resulted research never predicted as outcomes. Suppose that a scientist in the earliest 20th century had applied for public funds to study mold. Who would have predicted that such research would lead to the greatest contribution ever made to welfare? Antibiotics, one of the greatest contributions ever made to welfare. So what we can say, the main point is that, so we can say scientists in the early 20s had applied for public funds to study mold. everything in R's in the passage. The commitment of public funds to if it is possible to predict it. Lack of guarantee that new scientific research will contribute to the public welfare is not sufficient reason for legislators to refuse. Correct. In order to ensure that scientific research is directed toward contributing to the public welfare, is directed towards wrong. Scientific discoveries that have contributed to the public welfare would have occurred sooner. Wrong. If it were possible to predict the general outcome of a new scientific research effort, then legislators would not refuse to. Wrong. That's not the main point. The common public funds for new scientific research will ensure that the public welfare will be enhanced. Incorrect. They're trying to say like you'll still be able to give money because then you wouldn't have never knew mold would lead to antibiotics. This matches the conclusion of the argument in different words by stating that refusing to fund projects with uncertain outcomes ignores the beneficial contributions of the past. The author stating that a lack of guarantee isn't enough to deny funding for a project, because they also said as a supporting statement that they can learn in the process. Not having money, not having proof should not, or guarantee shouldn't stop you from taking that risk to learn, bro. Still try. Balance is particularly important when reporting the background of civil wars and conflicts. Facts must not be deliberately manipulated to show one party in favorable light, and the views of each side should be fairly represented. This concept of balance, however, does not justify concealing or glossing over basic injustices in efforts to be even-handed. If all the media were to adopt such If all the media were to adopt such a perverse interpretation of balanced reporting, the public would be given a picture of a world where each party in every conflict had an equal measure of justice on its side. Contrary to our experience of life and indeed our common sense, which of the following best expresses the main point of the argument? So I really have to break down and understand and analyze. And with this, it's saying it's important when reporting the background of civil wars and conflicts. Facts must not be deliberately manipulated to show one party in a favorable light, and the views of each side should be fairly represented. This concept of balance does not justify hiding or looking over simple injustice in efforts to be even-handed. If all the media were to adopt such a perverse interpretation of balance reporting, the public would be given a picture of a world where each party in every conflict had an equal measure of justice on its side, contrary to our experience of life and indeed our common sense. Right? If all media were to adopt such reporting, if the media was to understand that views of each side to be fairly represented, the public wouldn't be able to see, they would just be given a picture of a world where each person had a good reason for why they did what they did, and is an equal measure of justice on its side. And that's not what we're told. Balanced reporting presents a public with a picture of the world in which all sides to conflict have equal justification. Balanced reporting requires impartially revealing injustices occur. Reporting requires impartially revealing injustices that where they occur, no less than fairly presenting the views of each party in a conflict. Balanced reporting is an ideal that cannot be realized because judgments of balance are not necessarily common sense tells us that balance is essentially needed when reporting is wrong. Our experience of life shows that there are indeed cases in which conflict arises because of injustice with one party clear in the wrong. Balanced reporting requires impartially revealing injustices where they occur no less than fairly presenting the views of each party in a conflict. It's an idea that cannot be religion. Okay, balanced reporting presents to the public everything. So if you was to show why you did what you did and why what they did was correct, it would be awkward. Yeah. I'm gonna need it. No, it was the balance reporting requires impartially revealing injustices where they occur, no less than fairly presenting the views of each party in a conflict. This answer reflects the main point. Balance reporting requires reflecting facts, whether they highlight positive actions or injustices. The balance is for lack of bias, not presenting sides as equally justified. The argument states that balance reporting need not to be equally justifying sides of a conflict, just presenting them fairly and completely so this interest contradictory to them. Balance reporting presents the public with picture of the world with all sides to a conflict at equal justification. Wrong. No. stop looking at time and doing that wrong. Well, damn, baby, I didn't even get to see. No looking at time. Just close it. Alright, just close it. I'll walk before I run. I think when I get it wrong, I shall only write the answer there. I'll write key takeaways when I get something wrong, but I'll write out all the questions that are correct. Would it be right for the government to ban an effort to determine at what levels to allow toxic substances in our food supply? The government should continue to try to determine the level of its in our food supply. The government never said anything about will never. I think I need to read the passage. This is the part that my brain gets like, probably need to stop. This is probably so detrimental because all of these long hours and I'm not getting the questions right. Gotta go in with a fresh mind and mindset. But I just want to finish this since I started. And now I know I'm gonna jump right into these questions as I watch the video today and I attempted them and I know the right answers, so I just need to put that into effect. If I get the next one wrong, I'm literally gonna stop. Because I'm not reading it. And my brain is like fried. I've been talking all morning and breaking down this and that all morning. I need to just go in there with a fresh mind. Today was not, or the ending of this is not good. But I also don't want to just end it abruptly. I'm only 15 questions in. I'm just going to stay committed. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to redo it tomorrow with the fresh mind. So I might as well finish today and see what I pick up. And the reason I stopped reading it out loud was because I'm not trying to practice all of this out reading out loud, but when it's time to take the test, I'm like, I can't read out loud. I don't think that matters.